Hi knitters, Mindy of MinuetKnit here with my Wonderland yarns and Frabjous Fibers TweedleDeeDum base in the colorway Bread and Butterfly. I love the whimsical names. Today I'm going to show you how to work a cable cast-on. Cable cast-ons are a wonderful thing, especially if you are familiar with the long tail cast-on. If that's your go-to cast-on, there's nothing wrong with using it, but I think anyone who's ever worked a long tail cast on has had that headache of figuring out how much yarn do I really need? Do I need yards and yards? Do I only need a little bit? And then you cast on and you have either a tail this big left, or you have so many extra yards that you could have used in your project, but it's just too hard to get started and not know exactly how much yarn you'll need. Well, the wonder of the cable cast on is that you are working from your working yarn. So when you're working from the skein, that means you don't have to worry about running out of yarn. So I'm going to show you how I work the cable cast on, starting with a really simple slip knot tutorial. I actually worked in a local yarn shop and one of our customers taught me this, which I just thought was brilliant. So you bring your yarn over your pointer finger and wrap it away from you twice. And then you grab the yarn that is closer to your knuckle here. You bring it over, but not off of your finger, over the other strand. Then the second strand, you bring over and off of your finger, but still hold on to that first one. And check that out. There is your slip knot. If you need to see it again, give a little rewind. I think you'll catch on pretty quickly. So now that I have my slip knot, I am going to put that loop right onto my needle. I've broken out the big needles today. These are my size 11 needles. TweedleDeeDum is a bulky weight yarn, so I want to make sure I've got plenty of space to work these stitches. So we're going to go into the stitch. Now you can see I'm knitting Continental. I will show in English knitting as well. I'm going to go into that stitch and bring it through. So basically you're going to knit this first stitch just like you would in any regular knitting project, whether you knit English or Continental. But I am going to make this stitch nice and big, and I'm going to go right down into the top of the stitch, place it on my left hand needle, then take my right hand needle out. Now you can see this stitch is sitting here nice and loose. I actually want it to stay loose for a moment. When we work a cable cast on, we don't work into the stitches, so that first stitch is the only exception. You knit the first stitch. From here on out, we're going to go in between the last two loops on our needle. In this case, we only have two. So now if you're an English knitter, let me demonstrate. I'm going to use this working yarn, go around that back needle, draw it through like I was knitting in between stitches. Make that loop nice and big. Now here's where it's a little different. From here on out, instead of going into the top of the loop, we need to come toward us and underneath that front leg of that loop, place it on the left needle, take the right needle out. And again, don't tighten until you get your right needle back in there. The reason being, once we have our needle in there, we can pull our working yarn taut. And look at this. My gauge is going to be consistent throughout because this needle here is setting the gauge of all of my stitches. So again, English knitting, bring it around the back. You're bringing the yarn through the way your needle went in reverse. So through, open it wide, under the front, onto the needle. Continental knitters, again, don't close up this stitch until you have your right needle back in between the stitches. Continental, go ahead, you can snug up your yarn. Don't make it too tight, I can still move, but you're gonna wrap around, bring it through, left needle point toward you, under the loop, onto the left needle. And this is great because what it means is you can cast on as many stitches as your heart desires, and you won't run out of yarn for your cast on, and anything that's left over is going to be worked right into your project. So you really get a lot of benefits out of working a cable cast on. The most important, in my opinion, is the beauty of the cast on. Wait until you see how this looks. I'm going to cast on a few more stitches for you so you can really see what is happening here. Okay. So now you can see that by twisting these stitches onto our needle, we get this nice little almost corkscrew pattern that creates a really pretty decorative edge. It has plenty of elasticity, so if you're making a hat or something else like mittens and you want to be able to adjust that fit so that they're not too snug, but you still have a little playroom, this is an excellent cast on. So there you have it. That is your cable cast on. Happy knitting!